Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us today. We'll be talking about wet nesting, so don't make bacteria your secret ingredient. It's something really important we wanted to share with you guys, so let's introduce our presenters. We had a last-minute change. Nancy cannot be with us today. She may be able to hop on later, but my name is Brianna, so I'm going to introduce our storage nerds today. It is Rob Calu-Savage. He's our wet nesting product expert, and also Mick. He'll be doing our wet nesting problem solver. So what is wet nesting? It's not raising exotic birds. Wet nesting refers to bacteria buildup between nested items that can hurt the quality of your food during the prep and storage phases. I know it sounds pretty bland right now, but we're going to get into some solving the problem and some products that could help, and we'll answer questions at the end. So how can you avoid wet nesting? Simple, just proper air circulation during the drying process to help prevent the bacteria growth. So we're going to get into that. I'm going to hand it over to Mick. Here you go, Mick.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let's move along to the next slide. There we go. A little humor to start off the presentation. I think this gentleman is going for the world record for number of dishes washed and number of wet nested dishes in a given amount of time. Look at him go. Next slide. All kidding aside, one of the early accounts that we got involved with as far as wet nesting issues was raising canes. As you can see here in the pictures, the baskets show a mishmash of different items all just tossed in there randomly. Not a good situation, obviously. Consider reaching in there. You're possibly injuring yourself. There's a potential for cross-contamination, and obviously the items are not air drying, so not a good situation. And oh, by the way, that's a common sight that you'll see in a lot of back of house areas adjacent to the sinks, so there's clearly not a safe situation there. Next slide. So Janet Zimmerman and Jerry Kinlawn were involved in developing a really well thought out solution for raising canes. As a matter of fact, Janet told me that they took into account the health inspector guidelines in terms of developing some of these designs. And many of the designs that came out of this project are now part of our standard smart wall accessory designs that you can see for air drying in this type of environment. So you can see on the lower left, there's the Metromax drop-ins. Above the sink area, you can see there's a number of air drying accessories with plenty of opportunity for the pots, pans, utensils, and even the coffee pots there that you see on the right-hand side to adequately air dry in this environment. So great job, Janet and Jerry, developing that solution for raising canes. Next slide. And here's a few more looks at the same raising canes solution of solutions that Jerry and Janet came up with. You can see that, you know, there's a place for every tray, every pot, every utensil. You'll see that commonly we use the combination of the smart wall grids and the hooks to find a home for the various utensils and other items that need to air dry. So really, really nice overall solution developed there for raising canes. Next slide. So let's talk convenience stores. Cumberland Farms is one of the C-store chains that we've worked with up in the New England area. Initially, they came to us because they had a low score on their Steritech program. If you look Steritech is actually the industry's most consultative food safety assessment experience. So they were really in need of our help. They were having a significant wet nesting problem. And they came to Jerry Perkins from Hatch Jennings, and I worked closely with Mike Hutchinson at Cumberland Farms. We conducted a storage optimization assessment, which is one of the services or programs that we offer from the strategic accounts team. And we developed a very well thought out solution that the customer embraced, and even to this day, they're still using that in their legacy stores as well as their new stores. So let's take a look at some of the pictures from Cumberland Farms. You'll see that before Jerry and I went in there, they were really using the wall space very poorly. They were not optimizing that available space. They had chemical storage adjacent to the sink area. So not a good situation at all. Based on our solution, as we move on to the next slide, you'll see we were able to recommend a max drying unit. We had a little chemical cart that slid underneath the sink area, and then we had an extensive wall-mounted smart wall solution with the various air drying accessories on there. Really, we were really pleased with how that came out, and the customer actually was so pleased that he provided a testimonial on the results of the solution. So I won't read the whole thing, but basically the gist of it is, their scores improved as a result of better overall air drying capacity, cleanliness, and organization of the back of house workspace. That was Mike Hutchison at Cumberland Farms. We've also worked closely with 7-Eleven, Wawa C-stores, and a number of other C-store chains in terms of developing an appropriate air drying solution for them in their back of house area as well. Now, when I spoke to Jerry Austin, our grocery segment expert, two things really stood out for me. One is that just about every grocery store can take advantage of our air drying solutions. In other words, wet nesting is an issue in just about every grocery store situation. And the other thing to keep in mind is that, unlike a restaurant where you may have one sink area, in the grocery store you have multiple departments, deli, bakery, seafood, what have you, that all need attention in their sink areas. So it's a great opportunity for you to leverage your expertise and tackle some of those areas in the grocery stores. We've developed solutions for Publix, Lowe's, Associated Food Stores, Harmon's, and most recently, Wegmans. Next slide. Now, the sink area obviously is an area that the health inspectors really scrutinize in the grocery industry. So we've developed a number of solutions, as you can see, primarily smart wall based. Jerry has done a really nice job providing these types of air drying solutions for our various grocery customers. Next slide. This is something we did for Publix down in the Florida region. You'll see that they took a Metromax drying unit, and they also mounted a grid on the end of the unit, and then also added hooks and baskets and different accessories to provide some additional air drying capabilities on the end of the unit. Next slide. So when you're thinking of developing air drying solutions to address the wet nesting, try and think out of the box. For example, look on the left-hand side, you have a high profile smart wall unit with SE Pro shelves mounted on there. The unit in the center is a first generation unit that we developed for Wegmans. And then that kind of morphed into the unit on the left-hand side, which has all of the hooks for very organized and complete utensil drying storage. That unit actually was just added to the chain reaction portfolio of solutions, so that is now available as a pre-configured unit. Rob will go into a little bit more detail as far as our standard product offering, and I'll hand it off to Rob at this point.
Thank you, Mick. For the next few minutes, I'm going to review some of the standard product offerings that will help you to eliminate wet nesting. Next.
Coming off the dish line, instead of placing their pots and pans on a chrome shelving unit which rusted on them, we now have our Metro Max drying racks, which allows the pots and pans to continue to drip dry on a polymer construction so it won't rust on them.
And thank you, Lauren. Certainly during some of our kitchen storage makeovers, we featured Metro Max in the drying rack application. Certainly the materials that we use in Metro Max are very long lasting and rust resistant, in many cases rust proof. So these are designed to prevent nesting. Items are held upright and not leaning on each other. It allows the water to drain and it allows air to circulate around the items, which is critical. Next. You know, one of the things that we learned by observing people in their drying operation is that water has to go somewhere. And in a lot of the older buildings, these do not have large drains, or they may have a drain in a different area of the ware handling or ware washing area. So we devised a drip tray. The drip tray is simply there to collect water and ideal for those older facilities where they do not have a very large drain where water can be collected. Next. This is an example of a customer who first reached out to us at one of the school shows and explained their issue. So I sent them some product, and after one shift, this is how much water was collected. So you can see the standard 2.5-inch pan that's put into the bottom. They did not even empty half of it into that 2-quart container. So there's an awful lot of water that is on the floor during the drying process, and the drip tray can be used to help keep the employees safer by minimizing the amount of water that reaches the floor. Next. So just to highlight, Metro Max I is really our featured pre-configured model. We certainly have them available in Max 4, but Max I is the most popular, and it is the version that the drip tray can be used with. Now we do have 3 configurations. The one in the center, most popular, that features the 2 stainless drop-ins and the 1 tray rack tier. We also have one for high volume tray and I'd say lid users. That would be the one on the left, the 3-tier for trays and cutting boards. And then on the right was a version that is really popular in schools where they do use a lot of both sheet pans, cutting boards, and steam table pans. That gives you 2 tiers of each. Now these are available and pre-configured in 36 and 48-inch models. And you'll notice like our most popular models are on casters because certainly where they load and where they dry may be 2 different areas. So just keep that in mind. Next. Now our drying options for trays and pans, we have the narrow 1.25-inch slot size, and these are simply for trays, cutting boards, small service trays, pan and tote lids, and then the wider version with the 3-inch slot for the 2.5-inch deep sheet pans. Keep in mind the height of our slots. You know, unlike some other options in the market, these slots are high enough to securely hold the item and prevent them from falling over, and in some cases, you know, falling off the racks. So we paid special attention to manage those. And you notice too on our new versions, we have a protective polymer extrusion along the front edges, and that, you know, takes the impact from on and off daily to help make these products last longer. Next. Stainless steel drop-ins, again, very popular. It's the catch-all, okay? For everything that is not going to be in one of the tray or pan racks. So bowls, fractional pans, containers, colanders, funnels, lids, you name it, it can handle it. And we have versions available for Max I and for 4. Next. And we certainly realize that the side of the unit offers a lot of value too. So we've devised ways that you can attach a hanger rail or a grid, so you can attach baskets and hooks for some of the items that, you know, may not be suitable for some of the stainless drop-ins. So it gives you even more productivity out of that single unit. You can reference spec sheet 931 for more information on those options.
This smart wall really is smart. I mean, it's brilliant. We have a place for everything and it's easy to see, so it's easy to put away when you're done. You know exactly where it's going, and when you need something, it's right there for you to grab it. Our kitchen isn't big, which is one of our drawbacks, but this makes it so much easier to have a place for everything. I'm just so excited. I'm really excited.
So I'll transition into the smart wall section. We'll feature some of the items that are most popular on smart wall. You know, Mick showed a lot of examples of how this worked for Matan and some of the grocery stores. Brianna, if we can advance, please. One more, please. Thank you. All right, so our most popular smart wall drying options: shelves for bulk items, baskets, prong hooks, and the J hooks. If you stick to the basics here, you're going to accomplish 80% of what you need to manage in those spaces. There are others that can also add value when there's not enough room, let's say, for a full freestanding MetroMax unit. Next slide. So if you do have to manage a smaller amount of trays, cutting boards, and lids, there are some options, and I'll take you from large to small here. On the large side, you can utilize one of those XTR tray racks that are used with MetroMax and other lines. They'll handle the full-size sheet pans, full-size cutting boards and lids. They're 24 inches deep. They mount directly over any wire shelf or Max family shelf as well. Drop down in size, we have the grid-mounted TDR style racks that are available in 36 and 48 inches. They're for small service trays, half-size lids. Again, they will do the job when you don't have the volume of items to dry. Moving down one more in the top right, this is a slanted lid holder designed for 1/2 inch, 1/3 inch, and 1/6 size steam pan lids. And then our smallest, but not to be forgotten, the IWA-11K3 is designed for 1/6 and 1/9 size steam pan lids. Next. As Mick mentioned, the utensil sorting rack has become a standard part of the chain reaction offering, and our team will be releasing this information to you within the next week or so. The model features MetroSeal components and, if you will, like a starting amount of 20 prong hooks so you can manage utensils. The nice thing about it is you can always add other items to these grids on the inside and outside as needed. So this is going to be an excellent addition to the lineup for those high volume utensil needing customers that we talked about earlier. Thanks.
All right, thanks Rob and Mick, and I apologize for being a little bit late at the beginning, but multitasking failed me miserably earlier, so thanks for being the host, Brianna, on my behalf. So we do have some upcoming webinars planned, so we wanted to let everybody know the next one is at the end of this month on the 29th, and we are looking at the top 5 transportation applications and the best way to deliver on those. And then going into May, we're looking to sharpen our skills on how to evaluate and spec a more optimized workflow. You saw some of the tools that Rob and Mick were talking about that make working a lot more efficient. So you'll see a lot more on that webinar about those options that we have. And then on June 10th, we're going to tell you how to metroize your ride. Food trucks are becoming more and more popular. Even before COVID, so they've certainly taken off even more so. So we're going to look at those and a specific look at the barbecue aspect of them. So if you want to register, you go to the link that's there below and log on and let us know that you're coming, and we'll follow up with you after the fact with some information and a copy of this in case you want to share it. So everybody stay tuned there. We also want to remind everyone, especially the K through 12 schools that are on, or friends that you may have in this K through 12 school, segment that we are focusing our kitchen storage makeover for 2021 on the schools. A lot of changes there, so it's needed more so than ever. So apply, and it's a great opportunity to get some free product and have Metro team come in and help your operation be more efficient. And last but not least, I don't think we've had any questions pop up during this one, but if you think of anything after the fact that's nagging you about wet nesting or any other Metro issues, feel free to give me an email, or if you have any one of the presenters' emails, you can reach out to them directly, but we look forward to talking to any of you. So I think that's it. So thanks again, guys, and we will see you on the 29th.